Luke's explosive, ruthless fighting style and his aloof manner are all admirable traits. But if the disaster from 5 centuries ago were to happen again, if he were to face the same evil that I once did, would he still hold fast to his resolve? This, too, makes me most curious indeed. As we all know, poetry and language flow like the wind. Venti captures this spirit in his ballads. Flora and fauna he sings of seem to have a life of their own, and transport us to the moon and the stars. This self-proclaimed best bard of the mortal world gets his strength, his unwithering inspiration, from the wind. But what Venti seeks in life is not eternal fame for his ballads. Rather, he'd be happy with a cup of wine and a lyre to sing the marvelous stories of the world. Yes, that would make Venti the Bard very content indeed. When the people of Mondstadt talk about their home, they proudly call it the City of Wind, Dandelions, and Freedom. Perhaps it was Mondstadt's atmosphere of freedom that led the famous adventurer Alice to entrust her daughter Klee to the care of the Knights of Favonius. With this freedom, Klee has had a happy and unrestrained childhood, but all baby birds must leave the nest someday. Hopefully, our little Spark Knight will remain just as happy-go-lucky when that day comes, and keep smiling all the way. Though Jean may lack experience, Mondstadt has only prospered since she assumed Varka's great responsibilities. Even I, who has seen countless people, must respect her desire to always defend Mondstadt. But unlike most who bear great burdens, this young knight has remained as tenacious as ever. How was her will molded, and what sustains her edge such that it never wears down? If fate wills it, I will find the answer to these questions. Mona's hydromancy is indeed unique. No one can deny her intelligence and talent. Within Mondstadt, there are few who possess the ability and a desire to seek truth equal to hers. But beware, O young seeker. You must sacrifice your all to unravel the world's secrets. Can the astrologist Mona truly bear such a burden? Human history is to be written by the people. Even without the protection of the gods, Liyue would flourish as always. This is Keqing's belief. This desire to take fate into her own hands. I remember this feeling. Will she be able to bring her vision to life, to protect this land she calls home? In the hands of the Qixing, where is Liyue headed? The road ahead is unclear, but we shall wait and see. Few know where Tartaglia acquired his fighting skills before becoming a harbinger. Nor do many know where his lust for combat originates. There is a dangerous secret to the martial legacy he inherits, but it is one that even he himself does not fully understand. Since becoming a Fatui harbinger, fighting for the Tsaritsa is his new motivation as a warrior. Child is the Tsaritsa's weapon of war, and he stands for the might of Snezhnaya. An icy storm is starting to blow towards the other nations. Brace yourselves. Tevat is about to get cold. While Liyue Harbor grows restless on the eve of disaster, as the host of the Rite of Parting, Zhongli still calmly goes about his work. The world around him may be descending into chaos, yet he remains unperturbed, sipping his tea and watching a good show. Quite the fascinating character. As Liyue faces the turbulence of change, does he believe it is none of his business? Or is he also a player in this game, acting behind the scenes? It may be some time before the answers finally emerge. But no matter, for time is not something I lack. No one can dispute Albedo's talent, but the source of the knowledge he possesses, it once brought about the destruction of a glorious nation. All that most people know of him is his title, Kryda Prince, and that he gained his position in the Knights on recommendation from Alice the Adventurer. Beyond this, the young man is a stranger to them, a complete mystery, and the essence of his knowledge is equally unknown. But I know it well. It hails from Khanria, the art of Chemia, soil and chalk, the universe and earth, pure dust and the birth of human life. There is no mistaking it. I am content to watch most crises play out from the sidelines, but if Albedo were ever to make a single wrong move, I could not let myself ignore it. The Liyue Qixing has changed over generations. Centuries have passed in the blink of an eye. Ganyu's accompanied Liyue through many a storm, but Liyue Harbor itself, can this city really become a safe harbor for an Adeptus in the world of mortals? When the Geo-Archon Morax was alive, an Adeptus like Ganyu could find a sense of belonging in the human city. But at present, when the rite of parting has already marked his end, the loneliness of an inhuman living in the human world, will it take Ganyu over completely? For millennia, tales of the Yakshas have been told in Liyue. But over time, these defenders of the masses have all but disappeared. Only Xiao still honors his contract with the Geo-Archon by performing the duties assigned to him, though the cost of this duty is perpetual solitude. I know that Adepti suffer heartache just as I do, but I cannot know Xiao's future. Will Xiao be ravaged by the unending war he wages and be plunged into despair? Or will he meet someone who understands his sacrifice and can shine a ray of light into his dark world? Wangsheng Funeral Parlor conducts rites of utmost solemnity, and its staff are used to speaking little, making Hu Tao's liveliness seem an ill fit. Her elders once criticized her mischief-making, but having seen her immaculate conduct of the parlor's affairs, they could do naught but admit their error. Life and death are but two halves of an endless cycle. Life leads unto death, and death unto new life. Why then should death be taboo? Hu Tao has had the wisdom to see this, though some of her elders have yet to do so. Mondstadt's nights are peaceful and tranquil, but in the quiet of the dark, there are those who glimpse a flash of cold steel. This is the dour sister who metes out punishment to protect this place of peace and the sisters who are purity incarnate. Unperturbed with dirtying her hands, she has become a blood-soaked executioner. And having witnessed the cruelty of this world, she can no longer close her eyes and extol the blessings of the gods. Rosaria, the most unique sister in Mondstadt's Church of Favonius, never needed redemption from the gods, for she grasped it with her own hands. Yanfei was born during Liyue's peacetime. Though part illuminated beast, she never signed a contract with the Geo-Archon. Unconstrained by Adepti responsibility, she keeps herself busy in the city, experiencing all manner of worldly affairs, comprehending all levels of human emotion. In her hands, the legal codices are a contract, a tool, a framework of reason, but never a cage. She longs for a free-spirited life well within the confines of the law, but each detail of the cumbersome legal codices is also dear to her heart. Perhaps one day, a balance can be struck between them. There are those with hatred in their hearts that are able to do what Eula has done. Take the lust for vengeance bequeathed to them by fate and channel it into a force for self-advancement. For Eula, this has set her down a path of peace and inner strength. Still, there are others for whom the passage of time does nothing to quell the poison spreading through their souls. Only the future will reveal the path they take, but inevitably, it will be a different one. Kaedehara Kazuha is no aimless wanderer. He has a deep sense of purpose. The young samurai left his homeland behind not to part with the past, but in the search for a new hope. As he navigates his path, he charts a course through the myriad of storms that come his way. His exposure to the elements keeps him in touch with nature and connects him with other people who cross his path. Those who choose to defy the gods are destined for hardship, but even a maple leaf blowing in the breeze, if it falls into the right company, can learn to sail the storm winds of the sea to shores beyond the horizon. When Inazuma locals discuss the Yashiro Commission, they are full of praise for Kamisato Ayaka's cordial manner and sincerity of speech at social gatherings. When the name Shirasagi Himegimi is uttered, it is done so in tribute to her flawless etiquette and impeccable character. But what can anyone know of how Ayaka views herself in her innermost being? As the princess of the Yashiro Commission's Kamisato clan, Ayaka shoulders her family's duty to cherish the aspirations of ordinary people. But she also has dreams of her own that she holds dear. Perhaps the thing that she really needs is a companion on her journey, with whom to share a pot of tea and to play a game of Go. And with whom to stand shoulder to shoulder when it comes time to draw her blade. As the explosions in the sky fade away, breathless spectators find their friends and leave. But Yoimiya is already busy preparing for the next display. It is a time-honored routine, unchanging night after night. And everyone in Inazuma looks forward to the splendid sight of her latest creations. After a brief moment, the dazzling flashes fade and the crowds are gone. After hundreds of years, this sight is nothing new to me. But who's to say that brief moments of splendor can't become everlasting memories? The god who pursues eternity has yet to realize that not all that endures is constant. Time can keep fireworks in people's minds long after they've faded. Just as, once in a while, it can send stars fixed high above, plummeting down to the ground. Striving for the dreams of your youthhood is an admirable thing indeed. Only by improving yourself can you face the vicissitudes of life. And when it comes to improving yourself, whether it's sharpening your combat skills or simply trying to grow taller, to the young, anything worth striving for is a truly valuable endeavor. Now that I think about it, I too was probably once that way. Naive, persistent, and untiring. I'm only joking, of course. I've long forgotten the happenings of hundreds of years ago. Neighboring the Dark Sea, Inazuma has witnessed many a war. For the pursuit of eternity and the prosperity of Inazuma, the Raiden Shogun stuck stubbornly to her path. But what let some bloom made others wither. There is no gain without the pain of loss. When facing their fears, Archons and mortals are all the same. Yet Archons are born arrogant. By attempting to grasp the heavenly principles, she brought a disaster upon mortals. Perhaps some may say that I'm overstating what happened, but I'm just speaking from experience after all. As a Tengu raised by humans, Kujo-Sara heeds the call of humanity, forsaking her own kind, to fight for the mortal world in battle. Perhaps those who achieve such outstanding feats are too satisfied with their own brilliance to realize that their god has raised them in a prison. Sometimes I cannot decide whether the greater tragedy is to have lost all one's own ambition or to have adopted the wishes of a god as one's own. As an outsider in Inazuma, Toma is often viewed as someone who doesn't belong. To this day, many believe the slander behind his back. But through his own hard work and the Kamisato clan's tolerant attitude, Toma has carved out a space for himself here, despite the somewhat hostile environment. Occasionally a thought crosses my mind. If one who has turned their back on the gods ever chose to follow them once more, would any such favorable treatment be extended to them? Regrettably, no opportunity of this nature exists, nor would I have the desire to take it. Over centuries of futility, I have at least learned one thing. So long as you have determination, you can always keep going. A defender's will is a precious thing, and hatred can serve to nourish it. Long ago, a god defeated the enemies from the deep, and raised the people of Watatsumi from the desolate seabed. Later, another god vanquished their beloved Watatsumi Omikami, leaving the deathly Tataragami in its wake. If you were to liken human history to a great battle, the actions of gods would seem as difficult to predict as the weather, a capricious variable. Faced with such turbulent storms, who knows how long this girl who carries a divine will can protect the people of this island. Whether they seek it or not, those of exceptional ability and character tend to gain the trust of the masses. For Goro, this trust serves both as a confirmation of his abilities and motivation to hone them continuously. But the cost of being someone that everyone relies on is the burden of responsibility that it brings. Everything from helping the troops with their daily struggles to keeping Watatsumi Island safe and secure ultimately falls on Goro's shoulders. Time and fate treat such notions with contempt, which can make the burden unbearably heavy. If one day the world is turned upside down, will his instincts and determination alone provide him with enough strength to keep carrying the load he bears? Compared to his peers, Arataki Ito has lived a colorful life and is familiar with the inside of a prison cell, fully qualifying him as the rightful leader of the Arataki gang. Though some may contest his way of handling things, the members of this young Crimson Oni's gang choose to follow him, despite the diet of grilled lavender melon. Well, it's one way of living. And ultimately, surviving on sporadic work and next to no mora is still an easier task than trying to deny your destiny. Liyue Harbor is known as a bustling melting pot of a city, ready to welcome any and every lonely figure. But if Shen He truly wishes to rejoin human society, there is much she will have to learn. Even I myself do not relish the solitary life I lead. When others are fortunate enough to meet a companion for their journey, I sincerely wish them the very best. After all, to this day, I hold that people should be authors of their own fate, both the crane ready to make peace with the past, and the beast with a grudge to bear have the freedom to make their journey home. Compared to a lifetime, a single opera performance is short-lived. And against the vastness of history, mortal lives are like walk-on parts in a grand play, drops in a boundless ocean. However spellbinding the performance, the curtain call will come and the audience will leave. Perhaps this is why Yunjin incorporates the details of ordinary lives into her scripts, portraying the trials and tribulations of the common folk, alongside grand tales of gods and adepti, preserving their stories in operatic form to honor the human experience for generations to come. I happen to know a story about the heavenly principles and mortals, about cataclysm and peace, curse and devastation. If I were to share this story with Yunjin, I do wonder how her theatrical interpretation would turn out. In storytelling skill, the writers of the Yaya Publishing House are my superior. When I get talking, I tend to speak of true historical events. But under Chief Editor Yaya's guidance, works of sheer fantasy thrive, accounting for the vast majority of popular light novels. Maybe in another few centuries, archaeologists will find books filled with pure fiction, mistake them for rare historical records, and draw all kinds of conclusions from them. Perhaps by then, the truth of the past will be consumed as entertaining fiction. Its only purpose, to meet people's need for novelty, save for the sneering of the kitsune. All that will remain is the despairing sighs of the long-forgotten. Many years ago, the Yashiro Commission faced upheaval for their transgressions. The Kamisato clan survives today because they found favor in the eyes of a god, but they bear an eternal obligation to be guardians of the divine. If you ask the head of the Kamisato clan what he truly holds sacred, I dare say the will of the gods would not be his answer. And so, though Kamisato Ayato appears to handle his affairs with consummate ease, when all is said and done, he is simply an ordinary soul caught between the divine and the mundane. If there comes a day when the instruction of the gods conflicts with that which he has sworn to protect, how then will he preserve his delicately maintained stability? To most, the world provides boundless possibilities, and people are free to make their own choices as long as they are ready to accept the consequences. Fortunately, Kuki Shinobu is a talented individual, and the troubles stirred up by the Arataki gang are a price worth paying for her freedom. To thank Kujo Sara for an introduction, Shinobu once treated her to drinks at Uyu Restaurant. I doubt that the Tenryo Commission General could have ever imagined a throwaway comment she made over drinks with her friend would end up ensuring the longevity of the Arataki gang, cementing their place as a thorn in her side for years to come. Fate is a cruel and perilous thing. It bodes only ill, lurking in dark places like the chasm. To me, that place is the epitome of human misfortune. People died there, far from their homes. People with hopes and dreams, dutiful to the bitter end. Different motivations resulted in the same tragic conclusion. People ought to fear disaster, unless they can learn to draw strength from their fear. Perhaps Yelan is just such a unique case. Undeterred by fate's cruel design, there is no path she will not go down in the pursuit of secrets. But what if, one day, she descends into a place from which there is no escape? I am curious, by which of her many sides would she see herself be remembered? For most detectives, finding the truth is the end goal of every case. Once the file is closed and the criminal brought to justice, the satisfied sleuth sits back and congratulates themselves on a job well done. But even a job well done is not enough for Heizo. Finding the truth is good, but finding a way to dissuade criminals in the first place is even better. If it were anyone else, I would laugh off their delusions of grandeur. Surely no single detective could hope to reduce crime through the sheer weight of their reputation. And yet, in the case of Shikanoin Heizo, I find myself entertaining a faint and uncharacteristic sense of optimism. With that said, it is a pity that a detective of his caliber was unavailable to take on the case of the deicide of the God of Contracts. Even as I speak, strange events that I cannot comprehend are unfolding in Sumeru City. Fortunately for Tighnari, though he lacks knowledge of the full situation, his intuition has saved him from becoming entangled in it. In Tighnari's opinion, however profound and esoteric knowledge may be, it does not equal virtue. Elitism and deceit can lead to no good. Ironically, the academia sages who manage knowledge neither comprehend the true meaning of knowledge, nor understand the yearnings of the human heart. Though Tighnari has rejected them several times, still their pleas come time after time to his door. Let's see just where exactly the path of stubbornness and ignorance will lead them in the future. Growth means different things to different people. Some simply wish to grow up in peace, while others pursue loftier goals. As for Kaveh, she believes that overcoming her past is a necessary step on the long journey to the future she pursues. This is wise, for to overcome is to move forward, not to wallow endlessly in the past. Pity that my former travel companion, for all their years of rumination, lacks Kaveh's clarity on this. Or perhaps, some situations are simply too complex to be resolved by good intentions and honest effort alone. In my travels across Teyvat, I've heard people say that curiosity was mankind's original sin. Perhaps everyone has the impulse to explore the deep secrets of the world, but only scholars can truly fulfill such ambitions. Sino can relate to some degree. Placing the mysteries of the universe before scholars with a burning desire for knowledge would be like placing a dragon-themed deck from Genius Invocation TCG in front of him. Both are irresistible temptations. Perhaps the academia established the mantra not principally to punish wayward scholars, but rather to protect them, because the gravest crimes committed in the name of wisdom may be beyond the mantra's ability to punish. There are many rumors about the village guardian with the one golden eye. They say that the sands are her spies, the storm winds are her servants, the blood of King Deshret flows in her veins, and that even the strongest of foes must yield at her command. People who have lost their guardian deity often display the greatest interest in the gods, but having never seen a god with their own eyes, the far-fetched products of their naive imaginations are poor substitutes for reality. Yet despite being the subject of these fanciful rumors, Candace herself takes a much more sober view of things. A shield is but a tool, a polearm but a weapon, and what matters most is not the divine power a weapon contains, but the determination of the one who wields it. I must stress that I am a warrior and in no way versed in the disciplines of song and dance. If anyone was expecting to hear my philosophical musings on these topics, I'm sorry to disappoint. But while I am no connoisseur, even I find myself moved once in a while by the sight of an extraordinary performance. Even for the nation of wisdom, citing the pursuit of rationality as a justification for refusing to acknowledge the comfort that an audience can find in the arts is sheer arrogance. When groups clash, or human ideals conflict with the rules of the world around them, disputes of this nature most often arise from the inability to tolerate the existence of that which is different from oneself. Humans often place gods on a pedestal, awestruck by their unfathomable power. Very few ever come to the realization that gods are not the rulers of Teyvat, but merely another form of living being in this world. A god who lacks strength may have little to no advantage, even over mere mortals. Even I have no spiteful words to say about a god such as this. I will leave her be. Perhaps the god of Dendro will continue to propagate herself for as long as Irminsul continues to exist. As for the significance of Irminsul to the whole of Teyvat, I will leave that for those who are not under this world's control to discover for themselves. Many people have two sides to their personality, but it's not often that the contrast between them is as stark as Layla's. She spends her waking hours crushed by stress over her schoolwork, yet when sleepwalking, her mind is sharp and lucid. She casts aside her unproductive feelings of self-doubt and gets much accomplished. But perhaps she should count her blessings. Finding a goal in life is difficult enough as it is, and having any chance at all to pursue it undisturbed is nigh on impossible. Enjoy life while things are still uncomplicated. Go and do the things you want to do, because once you reach a certain age, things can never go back to being as simple as they once were. Time is a relative concept and is perceived differently by different people. 100 years is the longest life most people could imagine. Small wonder that they are fascinated by the idea of someone disappearing for this long, only to return looking not a day older than when they left. To Faruzan, those 100 years were physically exhausting and mentally taxing, yet she balks at the idea of seeking sympathy or being the topic of other people's conversations. Only convincing the academia's new enrollees to address her as Madam gives her experience some meaning. But if you ask me, age isn't much of a qualification. After all, time never really stops flowing. And although ancient wisdom should be respected, how long would it really take to erase it all? A comfortable life looks much the same for everyone, but the people who lead those lives may be nothing alike at all. A sharp mind and a good attitude have benefited Alhaitham immensely in his pursuit of the good life. It is not my place to judge how other people live. If anything, the more I say, the more jealous I would sound. The truth is, I have nothing against a laid-back lifestyle. It reminds me of a simpler time. But unfortunately, not all creatures are capable of being rational and logical in everything they do. Alhaitham's approach only works in the context of his relatively simple existence, and that is completely fine by him. I am a self-confessed pessimist, and refuse to believe that all children have hearts of gold. But Yao Yao certainly turned out well. Pure, innocent, and compassionate, she never fails to extend a helping hand to anyone in need. Fortunately for her, helping those around her is well within her abilities. She hasn't experienced many setbacks in her life so far, and given her positive attitude and the care and support from her Adepti guardians, it is unlikely that any setback could ever pull her down. Humans may have their weaknesses, but that doesn't mean that they are easily broken. Collecting payments and completing commissions is a mercenary's bread and butter, but the commissions undertaken by mercenaries differ from those handled by adventurers. Mercenary commissions are more commercial in nature, and the tasks involved are more varied. Many criminals, heroes, and other larger-than-life figures emerge from this trade as the euphoria of strength and success goes to their heads. But not so with Dia, who knows that delusions of grandeur only make surviving in the treacherous mercenary world all the more difficult. As someone who began life in the desert, Dia has been confronted with issues of belief and forced to make difficult decisions on many occasions. She may wear a stern gaze, but she treats others with fairness and generosity. I would even say that she, of all mercenaries, is a pioneer of living a genuine life, attuned to the realities of the world around her. To stay on course, one must have a clear view of the way ahead. This may sound trivial, yet how many walk blindly down their paths? Mika may not excel at speaking, but nothing escapes his sights. As he matures and grows in resolve, he will develop great potential to lead others. Still, despite his remarkable talent, Mika could find his ability to command the respect of others undermined by his lack of self-confidence. But who knows what the future will bring? Maybe there really will come a day when Mika finally musters the courage to refuse the menial tasks that Varka habitually foists off onto him. Humans typically live short lives. People chase after immortality for countless reasons, most of them selfish in nature, but Baizhu defies the norm. I know of no one else who yearns for eternal life as a means to endure limitless suffering. Perhaps this stubborn defiance is necessary to practice medicine. What doctor can expect to bring patients back from the brink who does not cling to the hope of life despite impossible odds? However sheer his determination, the future is always uncertain. But surely anyone bold enough to shoulder responsibility for the lives and deaths of others deserves reverence and respect. Many struggle to understand how Kaveh, despite his academic brilliance, has wound up leading a life fraught with disappointments. The objective truth is that Kaveh is his own worst enemy and brings most of his woes upon himself. And yet, I find myself reluctant to be too critical of him. After all, surely anyone with a heart would be moved after witnessing Kaveh stand up for what he believes in. Being a courier can be very satisfying work. To Kirara, every package safely delivered to a satisfied customer is a huge accomplishment, and a job well done always leaves her in a wonderful mood. Of course, not all packages are fortunate enough to make it into the hands of the customers waiting for them, but I admire Kirara's persistence and patience as she treks far and wide with her unwieldy parcels in hand, determined to see each and every journey through to the end. Perhaps this is the way things should be. After all, given enough time, is there any price too great to pay in order to achieve your goals? No one wishes to be tricked. But people still willingly take their seats to watch a magic show whose purpose is to deliberately deceive. Is it to lose themselves in a splendorous illusion, even for a short while, or is it to see through the illusions and trickery? Either way, we need not pry too deeply. For regardless of how real the magic seems, it is but a performance. Just consider it a rare piece of entertainment in a world of fickle fate. Is that not enough? It's easy to avoid drawing attention, but it takes extraordinary talent to stay hidden under the spotlight. Quick movements and silent footsteps. Even if you keep your eyes peeled, it may very well be impossible to track the target. Oh, you think that was about Lynette? What if I was talking about a cat? I heard that Lynette is raising kittens at home. Perhaps even at this very moment, from a place you never thought to pay attention to, they're licking their fur and keeping a watchful gaze on your every move. As long as you can still think for yourself, you'll realize that obeying orders is no easy task. Freminet likely knows this as well, or he wouldn't have tried to seal away his emotions, performing his tasks like a clockwork mecha and diving into the deep sea to empty his mind. Even so, Freminet is no mindless machine, and the people and things around him will continue to pull him back out of the sea. Perhaps one day, he will finally realize that orders are not delicious dishes presented to him on a silver platter, but rather frozen walls that are obstructing him from completing his final metamorphosis. From Neuvillette's position, every conflict in Tevat must seem like a comedy acted upon a stage. Fighting for territory that doesn't belong to them, singing the praises of overlords who imprison them, and committing sins that will long outlive them. Still, he does not seem to be an unfeeling spectator at all. In fact, he even tries to understand the causes behind this state of affairs. I rarely see such people, but lest you condemn me as ignorant or a loner for making such a statement, I should remind you that there is only one Iudex of Fontaine in this world. Human lives are short, and their memories cannot be passed on. The origins of the Fortress of Meripede have long become shrouded in the mists of the past, and difficult to verify. But as the prophesied catastrophe looms ever closer, Wrisley pieced together the lost shards of history and revealed once more the silent secrets of the underwater fortress. The condemned willingly serve the gods out of their own sense of guilt, but have they ever considered that the gods may be unable to bring them the consolation they long for? While I can't claim much expertise when it comes to opera, I have heard that actors often rehearse in front of the mirror. On the one hand, they need to immerse themselves in the character and the scene, and on the other, they must see themselves from the perspective of the audience to decide whether their act is emotionally compelling. I'm sure that Furina, too, has spent time adjusting her technique in front of the mirror all alone. But I wonder, who is it that she really sees looking back at her? Journalism is said to have its roots in the business of intelligence trading, driven purely by profit. In stark contrast, today's journalists are expected to hold themselves to a set of high ethical standards: integrity, veracity, and impartiality. I do not believe people can be truly impartial. What is true to one person may not be so to another. My words, for example, contain numerous subjective opinions, which may sound like nothing more than a tall tale to others. If Charlotte were willing to interview me, I'm curious to see how she would deal with my subjectivity. I'm only joking. My story would bring her nothing but trouble. What she doesn't know can't harm her.